Hi, I'm Joni Stevens with Agilent Technologies.
And I'm Ben Yong, also from Agilent. In this segment, Joni and I will be discussing the fundamental features of solid phase extraction, choosing the correct format, and using the 4 basic steps for all SPE. All of this information, in addition to tips and resources for optimizing your solid phase extraction methods, will be included in the downloadable notes available for this video.
In this segment, we will be reviewing the available SPE formats and discussing the 4 steps of SPE to help you maximize your solid phase extractions and get the results you need. Right, Ben?
Right, Joni. And choosing the right format for your SPE is a great place to start. Choosing the appropriate SPE format will be based on the analyte, matrix, volume, and concentration of your sample.
There are 5 basic formats for packing solid phase extraction material. The straight barrel, also known as the syringe barrel, is defined as a 1 to 60 milliliter size barrel, indicated by the approximate volume that can be added to the barrel at any one time, relative to the packing material present in the barrel. The usual bed mass for this format is 30 milligrams to 10 grams. Another SPE format is the LRC, or Large Reservoir Capacity format. LRC uses a barrel that is fluted or funneled in form, allowing for greater volume capacity than in the straight barrel format. The usual bed mass for LRC is 100 milligrams to 500 milligrams, with a maximum volume of 10 milliliters at one time.
The third SPE format we'll discuss is Bond-Dilute Junior. Bond-Dilute Junior uses a cartridge style where the bed mass is packed in a housing that contains a female lure connector on one end and a male connector on the other. This SPE format allows for the individual cartridges to be linked in series or attached to a large reservoir. The usual bed mass of this format is 500 milligrams to 1 gram of material. The 96 well format is another great option to consider. The 96 well format is based on a 96 well plate design, in which the SPE material is packed into individual round or square wells. The SPE material can be placed into the wells, which can accommodate a 10 to 100 milligram bed mass and 2 milliliter maximum volume.
And last but not least is the pipette tip format. In this design, SPE material is placed within a pipette tip, allowing for miniature bed mass and volumes. Let's take a look at some examples so we can determine how to choose the right SPE format for our method. For small volume biological samples, choose a small bed mass, such as a 10 milligram to 100 milligram, and SPE formats like the 1 milliliter cartridge or 96 well plate. For very small volume samples, the pipette tip format is a good choice, offering a vacuum-free process and shortened processing time.
For large volume samples like water that require a large sample volume passing through the cartridge, choose a larger bed mass and larger volume capacity format.
There are 4 basic steps to every solid phase extraction method. A simple way to remember the 4 steps is C, L, W, E, pronounced CLUE. CLUE stands for condition, load, wash, and elute.
Understanding the importance and purpose of each of the steps can be extremely helpful. Being familiar with this makes incorporating SPE into method development and sample preparation as easy as 1, 2, 3, 4.
Ben, you're exactly right. Let's have a look at CLUE up close. The steps we are about to discuss apply to reverse phase chemistry, which is the most broadly used phase due to its wide applicability. Conditioning is designed to essentially activate the material in an SPE cartridge. Conditioning is usually a 2-step process, often ignored or minimized. So let's take a moment to discuss why conditioning is a truly important step in the SPE process. The issue of conditioning applies to both polymers and silica-based SPE materials, but it is critical for silica-based products. For polymeric SPE materials, conditioning improves flow. Ben, what are your thoughts about conditioning?
Conditioning is important because the SPE cartridge is packed with dry material, and for this material to be active and effective, it must be exposed to organic solvents. This process is very similar, but not identical, to what is required for a new HPLC column.
Absolutely. Conditioning is essential for the column to perform correctly. It is one of the biggest influences on the maximization of efficiency and capacity of the sorbent bed. SPE material must first be conditioned with an organic solvent. The purpose of the organic solvent is to solvate the nonpolar functional chains, like C18. It is also important that these phases not be allowed to dry out once it has been conditioned. This will have a negative effect on the next step, loading. In general, polymeric SPE material is not affected by drying out, but on the other hand, will benefit from improved flow when properly conditioned.
After the SPE material has been activated with the organic solvent, we will need to equilibrate with an aqueous solution. We can use an aqueous solution such as water with modifier, or a buffer solution. The organic environment needs to be displaced with an aqueous solution so that the particles can interact with the sample, which is established in this second step.
Well said, Ben. Keeping these two important steps of conditioning in mind, let's take a look at the results of a poorly conditioned SPE cartridge in comparison to a properly conditioned cartridge. We have here 4 3-milliliter cartridges containing 100 milligrams of C18 SPE material. We have chosen this bed mass to allow us to visualize and explore the concept of proper conditioning.
But keep in mind that poor conditioning is an issue no matter what the bed mass. In general, it's appropriate to use 3 to 5 bed volumes of solution or solvent per bed mass. For example, if the bed mass is 100 milligrams, then use 3 to 500 microliters of solvent. Now that we've discussed the importance of conditioning, let's discuss the L in CLUE, loading. Loading the sample, as you may know, is extremely important. When considering loading, there are 2 important basics to remember. Be sure to understand the type of matrix associated with your compounds of interest, and make sure you know the basic characteristics associated with your analyte.
It's common to pre-treat a sample prior to loading, as certain matrices will bind your analyte of interest. Additionally, treatment with acid will disrupt plasma protein binding. Dilution will minimize ionic and nonpolar interferences. pH adjustments, for instance in drinking water, will remove charged species. As you can see, when we add the sample to a poorly conditioned SPE material, the sample is not retained as well as on the properly conditioned SPE material. The result will be breakthrough of your analytes of interest, which will lower recoveries and negatively affect RSDs, or relative standard deviation.
An important consideration when loading the sample onto the SPE material is to allow the sample to interact with the sorbent as long as possible. We can accomplish this by using a slow sample flow rate. This allows optimum residency time, promoting sample interaction with the SPE material, and successful retention of the analytes to the phase.
In addition, make sure to employ proper pipetting techniques throughout the entire SPE process.
Now let's take a look at the W step, washing. This step refers to using a solvent to wash interferences from the material without removing the analytes of interest.
We certainly don't want to do that.
Right. Many products, such as our polymeric SPE material Plexa, for example, have simple recommended starting methods that offer simple wash parameters. If additional optimization is needed, there are 2 common parameters that can be optimized: solvent strength and pH. Basically, you want to wash with the strongest solvent possible, removing interferences without eluting your analytes of interest. pH can also facilitate the removal of interferences and in turn offer a much cleaner extract.
The final step in CLUE, E, stands for elute. Elution refers to the solvent required to extract the compounds of interest from the SPE material. It is not uncommon to employ the use of stronger or larger volumes of solvent. It is important to keep this in mind when considering the final elution. This typically requires evaporation and a reconstitution with the solution that is suitable for LC and GC analysis.
Optimizing the elution step is critical because it will help to yield a clean, interference-free eluent, producing optimum recoveries. The elution step can also be optimized in terms of both organic solvent and pH. There is a link available in the notes which offers tips to optimize your SPE method.
Now that we've covered a couple elements of optimization, you can utilize SPE as your sample preparation technique with ease and confidence.
Remember, choosing the correct packing format of SPE material will be critical to the quality of your results. To obtain a list of the 5 basic formats and a summary of the information covered in this video, please visit www.agilent.com/chem and search for SPE video notes.
The notes include a review of all the steps and considerations involved in CLUE: condition, load, wash, and elute. The notes also include a link to an experimental approach to optimizing your wash and elution parameters through both pH and organic strengths. Thanks for letting us clue you in, and if you have any additional questions, please visit us on the web at www.agilent.com/chem/contact us.
Thanks for watching and best of luck with your sample preparation.